Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm so glad you're here today. Well, I'm going to be sharing some behind the scenes from my journey of full-time travel and some big takeaways. Now, as I was writing the outline for this episode, I was sitting on the patio of the Hyatt House in Beaverton, Oregon. And while I was sitting there, Bentley was sitting beside me on the couch. He was taking a nap, and the concierge came out and brought Bentley and I each cold water on a really hot day. And that kindness absolutely made my day. And the gestures of kindness that we offer to each other truly make such a difference. So, as we kick off this episode, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Hyatt House in Beaverton, Oregon. It has been such a beautiful place for us to stay and to reintegrate after 3.5 weeks at the beach in Ocean Park, Washington, on the Long Beach Peninsula. We absolutely loved our time there. We loved it. But I'll admit that the solitude I experienced on the peninsula was a little bit more than I would naturally choose. And so I'm relishing being around so many people again, and especially with the truly kind people who are living and working here at the Hyatt House. So we start our day each day here at the Hyatt House with smiles from the valet and the concierge. And one valet and Bentley have become best friends, and he waits to see his friend, Bentley, waits to see his friend before he'll come upstairs to our room. He just loves the attention and the scratches that he gets. And it just makes me feel so good too to have a lovely conversation with the concierge or the valet. And these little conversations, they seem little that we have each day, they make such a difference. So, you know, after spending almost 3.5 weeks where I talked to the grocery store clerk and I talked to a couple people that I met on different trails and some people hiking and things like that, but most of my days were alone. Well, except for the guys, the compactor, the trash compactor. Long Beach, Washington has a public compactor, and so you take all your trash and recycling there. And I think I may have talked about that on one other episode. I definitely talked about it in one of my Instagram stories. But at any rate, the conversations that I have every day with, a clerk or a valet or a barista, they make such a difference in my life. And they make me feel like I'm seen and heard, and it helps me to feel part of the community. And as I'm traveling and feeling a little bit uprooted, I'll be honest, I'll dig more into that in just a little bit. These are really helpful for me, and they're keeping me going, and they're making me feel really good. And so, to all the people who are working in public service right now, you're making such a difference in people's lives because, you know, the hospitality industry, whether it's restaurants or coffee shops or hotels, you literally might be the person that someone's talking to. And so thank you for the work that you're doing. And if you happen to be visiting a coffee shop or a restaurant or a hotel, invitation to get to know these people. They are fascinating and they have the best stories about their lives and what they're doing and what brought them to the place where you met them. And it's been really fulfilling and cup filling as well. So I will admit to you that full-time travel has been a bit harder to adjust to than I might have imagined. And I'm very glad I'm doing it. I am not ready to give it up. I knew that there would be a learning curve and that there were things that I needed to learn, to know, to do, to experience for the next phase of my own personal growth. I knew that. And yet, wow, the first month has had more learning than I could ever have imagined. And I'm incredibly grateful for it. Usually on the podcast and on social media, I only share from the scar and never from the wound. But in order for me to truly share this journey with you and to take you along with me, the reality is that I'm going to be sharing some of both the scar and the wound. So know that these episodes that are dedicated to the experiences that I'm having while traveling full time are going to be a little different. They're going to be a little more raw. Let's go ahead and dive in. The concept of too much stuff has been something that I've been working on for 5 or 6 years, and I've made tremendous progress. But to be really, really transparent, it's part of the reason I wanted to try full-time travel. Because when I travel, everything just feels so much easier than living, in large part because of the stuff at home. There's just a clean energy when I travel, and it feels like freedom. Speaking of energy, we're going to be talking all things energy, from setting energetic boundaries to understanding the impact all your stuff might be having on you, to understanding what auras are and how to adjust them and things like that, in a free masterclass called Understanding Energy on July 19th from 8 to 9:30 a.m. Pacific. You can register by going to brendawinkle.com/understand energy, all lowercase, all one word. This is going to be a really juicy masterclass. I hope you come join us because we're going to be talking about a lot of the concepts I'm talking about today with you. So I started to clean out my house in Boise, Idaho 5 or 6 years ago. And I got rid of things I didn't love, things that didn't bring me joy, things I didn't use. And I made really good progress. And my house felt like it reflected me. Energetically, it felt like we were attuned to each other. I just felt good in my house. And my friend said my house felt good too. And that was in large part because as years went on and I spent, 15 of the 17 years I was in Boise in that house, it really began to reflect me. Because when I moved into the house, I was coming fresh off of a divorce, and I was so grateful to be the recipient of loads of household things. In fact, my Mary Kay sisterhood completely furnished our home. And if you don't know that story, go check out the About page on my website where I share a little bit more about the story, but that's not the point here. So over the years, I made choices that were more and more reflective of my personal taste. And then during the pandemic in 2020, the house really took shape in a way that reflected me because we all had so much time, right? I mean, I painted the inside of my house twice in 2020. It just felt so good. So my house felt clean, modern, classic, and also warm. I loved my house. And then in 2021, we moved to Beaverton, Oregon. And we moved from that 3-bedroom house in Boise, Idaho, to a 2-bedroom, 3-story townhouse. Now, we unpacked as much as we could in that townhouse, and it was beautiful, but we still had a garage full of stuff that didn't fit into the townhouse. We never did get a car to park there. It was always just full of stuff. And the heaviness that we felt there because of all the stuff in the garage was something that we literally always felt. It felt like a combination of heaviness, like actual weight, and static. It was not pleasant. It was not something you wanted to be around. Every time I walked in the house by the garage door, I would feel it. And every time I headed down the stairs from the second floor, which was the main living area, and then the third floor were the bedrooms. So the main living area down into the first floor where the garage and the door outside were, there was just always this heaviness. And I told myself and pretty much anyone else who would listen that I didn't like the townhouse. In retrospect, I'm not totally sure that's true. There were definitely things I didn't like about it. I didn't like the proximity to a really loud road. But I think what I actually didn't like was the heaviness and the static in the garage caused by all the stuff. So when I sold that home and was moving into an apartment and the moving company came, they loaded up the moving truck first with the things in the garage. And as soon as the garage was empty, the energy in the entire house changed. And it felt good. I mean, even though we hadn't moved anything and anything from the living spaces and there were boxes everywhere and things were chaotic, the energy shifted and the house felt good. And I realized, oh, it wasn't the house I didn't like, it was the garage and the clutter and the stuff. But because, as I mentioned in the last episode last week on agency, unless we're intentional, we mostly think the same thoughts every single day. And even though this was a really, really big realization for me, I kind of forgot. I went blind to it again. And I moved into a second floor apartment with the garage being on the first floor. So you'd pull into the garage and then you'd go into a doorway up the stairs and into the apartment. Now, if you're going to guess that I'm going to tell you that that garage was full of stuff, you would get a prize. You guessed right. So, in case you're not keeping track, or in case you are, now there are two homes in 2 years' time that have had their garages completely filled. So full that there wasn't a prayer of getting a car to park in there. Last year, in June 2023, I moved into a townhouse in Lake Oswego. This was a 2-story townhouse. Now, again, there was a full garage after I moved in. I had recognized that this was a repeating pattern and decided that I wanted to shift it. And so over the past year, I have tried to sort and purge, and I really did put a lot of effort and intentionality behind it. And I did a decent job. I mean, there was still stuff in the garage by the time I moved a month ago, but a lot of it had either changed form or I had donated it or I'd gotten rid of it. But I kept telling myself, it's not that bad. Like, I'm doing pretty good here. It's not that bad. And then the movers came. So the movers came on June 10th. And as they arrived, I started to pull things I knew I was going to take in the car, traveling full time with me, out of the house. And that night on the 10th, I realized that I had grossly overestimated the size of the trunk in my Prius, and that the things that I had planned to take were not even going to fit. There was no way I could take the amount of stuff I wanted to take. I mean, I wanted to take a spare set of sheets, so I'd have those, and my favorite towels, and my suitcase full of clothes, and another little suitcase full of shoes, and all of Bentley stuff, and all my work stuff, and my big computer. And you're probably already laughing as you're like, Brenda, you're going traveling. What were you thinking? But still, I was like, okay, I think I can make this work. So I called my daughter Maya and asked her to come over that night. And she came over and we sat amongst the boxes and took what I had been 3 suitcases down to 2, and changed my mind about taking a lot of the other things, and thought I handled it pretty well because I had the car mostly packed on the night of the 10th before the movers came on the morning of the 11th to pack the crates that were going to long-term storage in PDX warehouse. So as they moved, I realized that I had still miscalculated because there were things I hadn't anticipated. Like, I didn't think through, I was going to need the vacuum after the movers left. And so I kept it out. But guess what's still with me in my car? My vacuum. Now it's a little one. It's like, I just forgot the name of it, but it's one of those little ones that has a canister and you plug it in, and it's nice. But it's still a vacuum in my car full time, which I obviously don't need. Um, so at any rate, by the time all of the last minute stuff was out of the house and into my car, and the movers were gone and the crates full of my stuff were gone, I realized that I was barely going to be able to shut the car doors. So I was reconfiguring things right up until the last minute. And let me tell you, every nook and cranny of that Toyota Prius was full. So I laid down the seats in the back and I put everything I could from the base of the floor in the back up to the ceiling and in every nook and cranny, including under the front seat because Bentley rides in the front seat and he is attached to a little harness so that he's safe. And then I put things down on the floorboard and the back seats. I mean, every nook and cranny was full. Now, if you've ever read the book or seen the movie Wild by Cheryl Strayed, and then the movie was featuring Reese Witherspoon, she had that big backpack. I think she called it Monster. It was the green backpack. And it had all the things that she didn't need. She'd gone to REI and she'd done some shopping based on, recommendations and ended up with pots and pans and all these things to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. That was me, except in a Prius. Now, instead of me tipping over, falling over backward with the weight, his weight is literally slowing me down. It's taking my bandwidth and I can't close my car doors and I worry about the stuff and it kind of feels hard. So I told myself when I was in Ocean Park, Washington, that I was eating all the food, all the staples that I'd brought with me, so that there wouldn't be so much stuff when I loaded the car again. Well, that was partially true, but also not completely true because, yes, I had eaten the food down by more than 3 bags by the time 3.5 weeks had passed, but there were still bags and bags of food. So I came to Beaverton as I record. I came to Beaverton the week of July 4th. I came on July 3rd and came to the Hyatt House. Now, let me tell you, nothing looks or feels less abundant than someone pulling up to a hotel with a Prius to the valet with every nook and cranny filled with canvas grocery bags, boxes, and suitcases. So, those big luggage carts? I filled that up twice, as high as it would go. And I still left more than 30% of the stuff that I had been traveling with in the car still in the car. When I finally gave up and was like, enough, this is stupid. I have to find a different way. So on Wednesday this week, I finally understood the actual toll that all of this stuff was taking on me physically and energetically. Every single item that we have in our homes or in our cars or in our purses or our backpacks has an energetic imprint and it carries a weight of sorts. And the more you carry, the more you carry. We're going to be talking about this in our Understanding Energy Masterclass 2 on July 19th. I hope you come. It's a free masterclass, and we're going to be diving into all things energy, very much like this conversation that we're having right now. So on Thursday, July 4th, I got up really early and I went to Home Depot and I bought two of those. I think they're called rough totes. They're kind of the heavy duty clear plastic totes with a opaque lid. And I repacked a bunch of things and that really did help. I also made some decisions about what I was going to take to the storage unit and then called the storage unit only to realize that I don't have access to the storage unit on weekends. I could have called them earlier in the week and then I would have known this, but somehow I didn't. I don't know. Maybe I was still in denial, I guess, on Tuesday, because I still seemed to think it was all going to be just this great bunch of stuff that I was going to carry with me. So anyway, on Friday, I called and I tried to get access to the storage unit and they couldn't do it at the last minute, which I knew, but they don't have access on weekends, which I did not know. And so I'm not going to have access to the storage unit until I get back from traveling to Wisconsin tomorrow. So by the time you listen to this episode, I'm going to be in Wisconsin visiting my family. So it's really done a number on my thought process about the stuff. Because as I realized, not only was I not going to be able to get rid of the stuff to the storage unit, but I was going to have to repack it in my car. I'd been fantasizing about just taking the stuff that was still in the car to the storage unit and then repacking it with just the stuff in the hotel room. No, that's not going to happen. It's all got to go back in the car, but it is working. I'm leaving tomorrow. So today I'm recording it. It's July 7th. And tomorrow I leave for Madison. And so I'll be leaving the hotel and the car is mostly packed. So everything's going to fit in there actually easier than it ever has, but still there's still too much stuff. So I've had some big takeaways about all this, some really big learnings. I mean, yes, it's about the stuff, but it's so much more than that. So here are the top takeaways. Let's see, I have 3 of them. Well, maybe more than that. So big takeaways. Too much stuff is not abundant. It's in fact based in scarcity or fear of not enough. Now, I didn't realize this until this month. I grew up and my mom hates stuff. There was never stuff in my house. Her house is like museum quality clean all the time. My grandparents, on the other hand, were literal hoarders. And in their basement, you could only walk like the width of your shoulders. You couldn't extend your arms because there were loads and loads and loads of stuff. There were 3 trails inside the basement and you couldn't walk any further. So I had one model that didn't have any stuff in the house. And I had another model that had all the stuff in the house. And then I fell somewhere in between. And I never stopped to think about the impact that stuff had on me. I knew the impact it had on my mom. I knew that I didn't like the way my grandparents' house felt. I really, really disliked it. But I didn't realize that I was doing it to myself again in this version of carrying more stuff than I can carry. So when my car is so full that it takes me a full hour to pack and unpack it, I don't feel free. That doesn't feel expansive. That doesn't feel abundant. It feels like a burden. And when I get really curious about what my motivation is, it's fear of needing something and not having it. And if you translate that into other areas where this comes up for me, it's based in the fear that I won't have the support that I need. And it's part of an old story that I thought I healed, which was my needs aren't going to be met, which, by the way, isn't actually true. I know this on a conscious level, but it's still a story that my body is carrying. So I will be definitely doing some somatic work on that story to completely release that belief on a somatic level. So I look forward to telling you how that work goes because I'm starting like right now. Number 2, too much stuff is the antidote to freedom. That's right. Too much stuff is the antidote to freedom. Whether you're carrying physical or emotional baggage in the terms of unhealed trauma or child wounds or child needs that weren't met, or you're just carrying too much stuff, or you just have energy that you're carrying around that is not yours, it either lights you up or it weighs you down. There's no in between. So if you're not feeling buoyed by the experiences that you're having in your life, whether that's around the things that you own or the things that you're experiencing, then you're feeling weighed down. So when we think about this, if too much stuff is the antidote to freedom, here comes the second takeaway. Too much stuff is the antidote to freedom. Whether you're carrying physical baggage, like too much stuff, or emotional traumas, or stuck emotions that you've never processed, in any case, energetically, the things that you own and the experiences that you had either light you up or weigh you down, whether that's in your garage, your junk drawer, your car, or in your life. You know, if we don't deal with the things that are under the hood, so to speak, it weighs on us. And so you can absolutely count on the fact that I'm going to be doing some of my own deep somatic work on this story that is my needs aren't met. That's an example of too much stuff that I'm carrying that I don't need to be carrying. That's not even true, but it's emotional baggage that needs to be healed and processed somatically. And so energetically, when we talk about clearing this, it creates a lightness. And so a lot of times when I start working with people, they'll talk about coming in and they feel heavy. And they don't really have other descriptive words to say it other than, I just feel heavy. So if that's you, it might be that you have some emotional wounds or emotional baggage that can be released through somatic coaching or somatic practices. But in any case, too much stuff is the antidote to freedom, whether that's in your past, in your body, or in your garage, your junk drawer, or your car. And more stuff does not equal more security. I think that sometimes we get the idea that it might, but it's not true because more stuff actually equals more work. Number three, the toll of too much stuff is not only on your freedom and your energy, it takes a toll on your finances. And here's why. When we buy and buy and buy without keeping track of what we have or what we need, we overbuy. And we very probably overspend. We spend when we wouldn't have to. And here's what else is really present for me. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And knowing this, I've been holding myself accountable and asking myself, how is this showing up for me in other areas of my life? And I was reflecting back to a time when I was a waitress. And when I was a waitress at Helen's restaurant in Chadron, Nebraska, I used to take inventory. We'd have to count the ketchups and we'd have to count, the cans of whatever else we used. We'd have to take inventory. It was just part of the job. And when I was a teacher, we took inventory at least once a year of everything in our classroom, every book, every package of pencils, every instrument. But when's the last time I took inventory of me or inventory of my stuff? Well, the answer is never. I do take an inventory of what I call my life's work, and I take an inventory of how I'm feeling with health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, finances. I've done that, but I've never taken an inventory of my stuff. And it's really clear to me now that that is a missing piece in my life. And so I'm fixing it. It's going to change. And so, in the light of thinking about if how we do anything is how we do everything, and I'm buying things I don't need, spending money I wouldn't have to, this has implications on other areas of my life. This is a big part of what we're going to be talking about in Understanding Energy, the masterclass, how to become a better steward of either your stuff or your money. It has such huge implications on the rest of your life. So, for the last year, my mentor, Samantha Skelly, has been asking us inside the Life Mastermind, she's been asking us, where do you need to clean up any static, any lumpy rugs? And I honestly thought that I was doing a good job. I knew that there was stuff in my garage that I didn't, necessarily know what everything was, but I didn't understand the impact or the toll that it was having on everything else. And now I do. I mean, this month I do because I have had my patterns revealed to me when you take yourself out of what's normal. And this is what I talked about in the episode last week about agency. When you take yourself out of what's normal and you force yourself to think different kinds of thoughts by changing your environment or changing your patterns, all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's what I do in this area too. So the question that I have for you, this is the question I've been asking myself, and I'd love to share it with you, is what do you want to feel like? This is so important. Are you living in a way that reflects how you want to feel? I want to feel a sense of freedom, and I want to feel love and connected and expansive and joy. And I'm realizing that my relationship with stuff is actually preventing some of the feelings that I want to feel in big ways and in small ways. So I'm going to ask you, how do you want to feel? And if you're living in a way that does reflect how you want to feel, that's amazing. Celebrate with me. I would love to hear from you on Instagram or email me. You can, Instagram's probably better. Instagram me over at Brenda Winkle, just my name, all one word. I mean, email is great too, if that's your jam. Um, But then the question is, if you're not living in a way that reflects how you want to feel, What is the small hinge that can swing a big door so that you can begin to shift that? What's the one thing that you have been unwilling to look at or the unwilling to do? Because probably the answer lies there. For me, I was unwilling to look at the garage, to really look at why am I carrying around this stuff from, 3 states. Seriously, 3 states, some of it. Some of it came with me from Missouri when I moved from Kansas City to Boise in 2004. And I'm still carting it around now that I live in Oregon. Well, I don't even live in Oregon. I'm traveling full time now that my stuff is in Oregon in a storage unit. So, what's the small hinge that can swing a big door? What's the thing you haven't been willing to look at? And I want to say that if this feels really difficult or challenging or even triggering to you, there's so much love for that. Our bodies have these beautiful nervous systems, and our nervous systems have one job, and that is to keep us alive. And so, if our nervous system perceives anything to be a threat, it will create a stress response of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so, if there's an underlying story, an underlying wound, an underlying trauma that is causing whatever it is in your life to build up, your nervous system might trigger a stress response, which makes it almost impossible for you to do the thing you really want to do. And so, if you've tried to do this and you find yourself procrastinating or always starting it but never being able to finish it, please reach out because I could support you through that in somatic coaching. Because that's a big part of what we do in somatic coaching is we release the stuck energy in the body so that the nervous system no longer thinks of those stuck emotions as a threat. So you can actually do the thing that you want to do. So for me, the hinge that I'm working on right now is to pay very close attention to stuff. So I'm going to be noticing 3 categories that I've identified that I've been tracking where I don't always make appropriate choices that support my goals. And those 3 categories are clothes, food, and beauty items. So even while I'm traveling full time, I started with multiple bottles of conditioner, face wash, and lotion. I'm still wasting food, buying more than I can eat. Like tonight, I'm going to end up with some leftover things that I can't take with me on the plane. And I guess I can give them away to people downstairs if they want them. But, a half open bag of cheese curds is maybe not the most appealing thing. So I don't know how that's going to go. But the point is, I'm still not doing a good job monitoring my food. I'm getting closer. I'm making progress, but I'm not there yet. And then the third category is clothes. So I'm not going to close shop until the season changes, so I don't accidentally buy another shirt or dress in the exact same shade that I already have. So for example, I love royal blue, and I have royal blue in shirts, in dresses, in tank tops. I have the same exact color of royal blue. I have 3 in my suitcase right now today. So I'm not going to close shop until fall or until there's something I actually need. Like if my favorite pair of black Birkenstocks, if the sole actually breaks a hole in it, I probably will replace those. But other than that, I'm going to not buy clothes so that I can be a good steward and know what I have before I buy something else, because all of my clothes are packed in the storage unit and they're at the end of the storage unit. So I can go access them when the season changes. And then once I know what I really have, then I can make new choices about what clothes I want to actually buy. But it would be really easy for me just to go buy and think, oh, I'll just donate the other clothes in the storage unit. But I'm not going to do that because I'm cleaning this guy up. I was talking to a friend about this week, and as I was sharing with her how I felt about it, she just kind of gasped and said, oh my goodness, this is hitting for me. And I asked her to say more. And she realized that there is a disconnect between her buying and her behavior. So she was telling herself that her identity is that she eats really healthy food. But when I was talking about some of the misfires that I'm realizing that I'm having about my stuff, she realizes that she buys healthy food. And then a night will come and she doesn't feel like cooking, so they just get takeout. Or maybe, they're out right near dinner time, so they decide to go out one night for dinner. She's not cooking the healthy food as much as she was telling herself, but she buys it. She's just not cooking it. And then at the end of the week, she has to throw away produce. We all do things like this, whether your category is food or clothes or money or stuff. So it's an invitation to get really clear about the identity that we want to have. Because if we are intentional about selecting the identity we want to have, we can begin to shift it. So one identity that I'm shifting is I am a woman who's a good steward of all she has. And as I feel myself embody that identity, I'm noticing some behavior changes that I wasn't consciously trying to make, where I actually am being a better steward of the stuff that I have. So, invitation to get curious around what is the identity that you want and what is the small hinge that will swing a big door. So, after a full month of full-time travel, here are some of the things that I am going to be permanently changing in my life, not just limited to the time that I'm on the road for full-time travel, but these are permanent changes that I'm making. And I want to share them with you so that if you see me, you can also help, ask me questions, hold me accountable. And then I'm just sharing these publicly because I want it out there because I want to create these shifts in my life. So number one is I'm going to take inventory of what I have before I shop for anything in any category to make sure I don't already have the thing, because probably I do. I have a lot of stuff still. Number two, I will not carry along any more than I can physically carry in 3 trips. So that is going to mean that I do need to go to the storage unit when I get back from Wisconsin to the Portland area. Because here's the thing, if I'm taking more time than 3 trips to the car, I'm not feeling free. I'm spending time schlepping stuff and I'm not doing the things that actually bring me joy or make me feel free. And so I'm downsizing even when I'm carrying in the car, effective as soon as I get back from Wisconsin. And the third thing is, after being out of a familiar environment, I'm having to come face to face with some of my patterns. And, some of these patterns are really good. Like I have a daily breathwork and meditation practice that is really legit. Like I don't miss a day. It's amazing. I'm really proud of myself. And then I have some patterns that are not as good. For example, I use a ton of energy work to undo the negative energy caused by too much stuff. Yep, I said it. I'm using energy work to undo the stuff that I'm doing. What would happen if I just stopped doing the stuff I'm doing and use energy work for something else? Well, you're about to find out. And I'm so excited to share more about how this can impact your life and show you some ways that you can do this in the free masterclass, Understanding Energy, on July 19th. I hope you register. And I'm going to put the link in the show notes, but in case you don't check show notes, go to brendawinkle.com/understand energy, all lowercase, all one word. I hope that you come join me. And if you've got specific things you want me to talk about in that masterclass, DM me or email me. DM me on Instagram at Brenda Winkle, email me at brenda@brendawinkle.com, and let me know what your questions are, and I'll build them into what I'm going to be sharing with you. Now, here's another takeaway. Have you ever gone to a buffet and been overwhelmed by all the choices? Well, the truth is, I feel a little bit that way right now. So I am giving myself some structure and some boundaries around when I can transfer from one location to another and on how that works, because energetically, it took a huge toll on me to move on a Wednesday this week. So I'm only going to make transfers on weekends so that I can give myself time to energetically align with the new location and the new space. And that's really important because as somebody who's highly tuned into environments like me, and probably like you, if you're intuitive, empathic, or sensitive, we have to give ourselves time to attune to the environment. So I did the last 2 transfers, the first one being when I moved out of my townhouse in Lake Oswego to my first long-term stay in Ocean Park, Washington on the Long Beach Peninsula. And I did that transfer to Beaverton, Oregon on a weekday as well. And I noticed that not only did it cut my work out substantially, and I ended up needing to work on weekends to make up some of the lost work on the week. But I noticed I was not focused because I wasn't grounded into the new space because I was trying to do too many things at once. I was trying to attune to the space. I was trying to do the work. I was trying to schlep stuff and go shopping at Home Depot and manage things. And so more on the master class about attuning to spaces, how you can better attune to space, and also why it's important to give yourself time to attune in that free masterclass. So be sure you're registered for Understanding Energy. It's a free masterclass, and it's going to be some really, really good stuff I've never shared before. And I just can't wait. So one of the things that I haven't talked about a lot on this podcast is that I'm an energy healer. I'm trained as a Reiki master, as a advanced theta healing practitioner. I'm also trained in some other less known modalities like clendening, which is a modality that uses blue light and pendulums to heal energetically from anywhere in the world. And so I'm excited to be sharing some of my knowledge about energy with you because I've been working in energy work since 2015, and I'm really good at it. And I can't wait to share it with you because you're doing energy work all the time, whether or not you know it. So, for example, every time you clean your house and then you say, "Oh, it feels so good in here," you're doing energy work. That's truly energy work. Why? Because you're responding to having removed the stagnant energy in your home by cleaning it. Yep, that's energy work. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to show you lots of other ways that you can use energy work, some of which you probably are already doing, and you can tweak them with even a little bit more intentionality, and some that maybe you've never heard of before. So I can't wait to see you at that free masterclass. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Your Yes Filled Life. I love hearing from you. Invitation to connect with me on Instagram. I am over on TikTok. I'm getting better over there, but it's still not my favorite place to hang out. I love hanging out on Instagram, and I'm always available by email. Thank you so much for listening to Your Yes Filled Life. It just means so much to me that you're here, that you're along for this ride, that you're listening, and it feels like it just feels so good to have this community, and it means a lot to me. And I just wanted you to know that you mean a lot to me. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.